from reverse mullets to why people and employee experience is absolutely key. So you are more than welcome. It's fantastic for you to be here, and thank you very much indeed. But let me present you with the book.
Excellent, thank you.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
All right. Everybody hear me, I hope? Good deal. Appreciate you joining. Great conference so far, right? It's been a great time. Let me get my clicker going here. Yeah, so the reverse mullet. It's an interesting title, but it's an interesting way to look at employee experience. It's something that we've really honed in on, especially over the last couple of years, as we've looked at employee experience and done a lot of research. Let me just quickly introduce myself. That is not my hair. I have not had that much hair for maybe ever. I don't know if I've ever had that much. But I am the VP of Market Insights at Starr Conspiracy. Starr Conspiracy is a marketing agency. We work with work tech brands. You see some of them out there. We've worked with some of those folks out there. But we've done a lot of research. And so my goal and my role at the organization is really to do a lot of research that we do in the market. So we've spent a lot of time on the employee experience, talking to our clients, doing research, going into HR and operations folks to talk to them about what they're doing there. So, and just a little bit about me is in there as well. I did fly in from Portland, Oregon. Anybody else from Oregon? Or yeah, a few people. Great. It's a little bit of a trip out here. It's weird to get back in the traveling thing again. But yeah, so we look at the reverse mullet as sort of a way to think about employee experience. So let's back up a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about just some of the things that have been taking place over the last couple of years. And I'll start here with just some context about what's happening in the world. PwC, I think we got a speaker from PwC later on. They did this big announcement about a month ago, I think, about how they're investing in the employee experience, their people experience, I think is what they called it. And it's $2.4 billion. They announced how much money they're going to spend on this thing. That's a lot. I actually wrote, if it's enough. Now, what's really kind of crazy when you look at this $2.4 billion, where it's going towards, and this was all from the press release that they did. Remote and flex work is one piece, an extra week off, so they're already getting off the week between Christmas and New Year's, I believe. They added a summer one, so that's very nice. Parental leave, more mental health, learning and development programs, an alumni program. These are all great things. But there's also a lot to fix with the Big Four experience. Big Four accounting firms aren't well known for great employee experience. We've hired a few people from them. I've hired people from them before, and a lot of them talk about some of their experience there is great. Obviously, not known for being a really balanced organization. And so, when we look at this is what 2.4 billion can get you. And so I ask again, is it enough? That investment is progress, yes. And since employee experience is so new, it's something we've only been researching for about 5 years or so. So, when we looked at, programs that are out there, there's big bets. Like people are making progress without having a lot of research basis for this. We're actually getting more research in it, and that's exciting stuff that I'll be talking about a little bit later. Here's the challenge, though. Disruption is going to continue. So when we look at, the typical EX initiatives, they're built a little backwards. And it's not because anybody's doing anything wrong. They're actually doing what they've always done, which is this sort of paradigm of, putting shareholders first. Customers kind of come second sometimes. Employees maybe come later. So it's a very shareholder-heavy mentality. It's the way we've done business for years. This is why you heard about the cost of these programs, because the shareholders want to know how much money are we going to be putting towards this. Sometimes it can go worse. Not great, right? It sometimes feels that way. And how can you really deliver on everything else that you're trying to do whenever you're seeing sort of that investment take place? that is the mullet that we're talking about. So this is the traditional mullet. So we say business in front, party in back. That's a good-looking haircut, and strong mustache to go with it. So the business in front part is, making sure that the shareholders are taken care of, making sure the business is run strong. Everything else that people want, the party in the back, is the stuff that people like. They like customers love having a great experience. Employees love having a great experience too. So this dynamic of sort of the mullet is sort of where we start off. And that's sort of the default way we think of things. And so when employees are always coming last, this is what happens. So I'm sure you've seen this. You follow Gallup's information. They've done the longest longitudinal survey on employee engagement in the world. And you probably saw the headlines last year. Engagement is at a record high. If you see that chart, if your vision's a little better than mine is, 36% of people engaged. That's record engagement. So yes, better than what, 26%, 28%, but not great numbers. Not great for me at least. So we look at this as sort of like a kind of a canary in the coal mine when it comes to looking at why we aren't putting employees first. So we need to put people first. So we need to reverse the mullet. We need to put the party in the front. This very cool looking guy is a sticker that we have. You can talk to Joe here in the black and grab one for yourself if you like it. But this idea of basically putting people first is really important for us. When we look at this, though, you're at the Inspire Work Summit. You probably agree with this in theory. Kind of what do you do? What are you going to do with this information? What can we do to improve the employee experience? One of the things is we've realized, and we've gone out and surveyed people, is we don't understand actually what employee experience is. And this really clear, simple definition of employee experience is very elusive. We look at people saying, it's just talent management, or it's employee engagement 2.0, or whatever way you want to look at it. We need a better understanding. And so we actually started doing some research on our own to determine sort of what does a good EX experience look like. What we found is that employee experience really kind of cuts across 5 different focus areas. So we start with employer brand experience, recruitment marketing experience, candidate experience, work experience, and employee success. And so you'll notice the employee experience, 3 of the domains are for people that aren't actually employees yet. And that's actually taking from sort of the customer experience, where a lot of the expectations that you're putting out into the place in the market are set at the very top. Start at the employer brand experience as sort of the starting point. The way you treat candidates when they come into your organization, when you interview them, when you determine what assessments you're going to use, that's all part of the experience as well. And a work experience, when you think about the platforms that people use or the facilities you have, that's part of the experience too. And employee success is what most of us have focused on when we looked at employee experience. So we've looked at programs like well-beings, mental health, recognition, culture. Those are all sorts of things that help people do their job better. It's part of the employee success side of things. And that's really, when we look at, first of all, like when you're taking sort of this holistic approach to employee experience, mistake number 1 is that there's too narrow of a focus. So what most people say is an employee experience program is usually employee success, which is great. Mental health, more benefits, those sorts of things, we all need those things. So great, but it's missing the rest of the stack. So the problem with that is, if you have a great employee success program, but you're not getting a great candidate experience, you're missing out. Mistake number 2, making every moment great. And so, there's these great moments in an employee an employee's career that sort of really define their experience. So we don't remember everything that we experience at work. And thank goodness for that too. Some days are better than others. Some days just sort of fall into the minutia of things. So instead of trying to raise the bar on every single experience, which is impossible, you start finding and improving these defining moments in your organization. Now, lots of organizations have very similar defining moments. Onboarding, for example, defining moment. When somebody leaves the organization, when somebody has a baby. These are all things that, when they happen at work, it's usually something that's impacting your life. Whether your email system works 100% of the time, it doesn't. That's a little bit less of a defining moment. So finding those defining moments and investing in ways that really elevate those beyond expectations is kind of the second thing you could do, rather than trying to, again, move everything else up. Why go through all this? So why spend so much time on improving the employee experience, expanding that beyond just the things that we usually associate with employee experience today, which is employee success, looking at employer brand, looking at your recruitment marketing processes, looking at your candidate experience, looking at your work experience, looking at the solutions that organizations are using internally for collaboration, for example, or their desks. Those sorts of things all play into that. Why go through all this thing to improve the employee experience? One thing, we've just mentioned it, it's the right thing to do. So taking care of your employees has been great on that front. So a lot of the emotional arguments around using employee experience is based off that. We're going to do the right thing for our employees. That's a good reason to do things. But there's another reason. So, a lot of times when we talk about the reverse mullet, people, usually owners, shareholders, they get concerned about if we're kind of turning things around, if we're investing in our people first, if we're going to do customers next, and shareholders come last, where does that fit in for us? How does that impact us? And actually, we just got, this was actually just released this year. We actually have causal data on employee experience investment. And so we've had lots of correlating data that says, if people companies that have good culture do better. They do better in the stock market, they're more profitable, those sorts of things. This is the first time that we've really seen a causal data on employee experience investment. And so basically turns it into an ROI play. Some shareholders like that, for sure. What we like to do here, and again, we could share this link to the thing, or you could just Google that study. But great look at just sort of what this investment looks like. And so when you look at the investment that PwC makes, and you put it into this causal data, that's probably a pretty good investment. They could probably invest more. And they're probably the team that can figure that out too as well. They're pretty smart over there. But that's one thing that we like to make sure to point out, is that this isn't just good for employees. It's also great for folks that own the company. And that's always great to have too, as part of this. This is just a real short view of the employee experience, kind of the reverse mullet. We've put together a strategic framework for employee experience where we go into more depth. Didn't want to do all of that in 15 minutes. So we've got that available. You can use the bit.ly link. You can use the QR code scanner as well. Always happy to talk about this with folks. This is what I nerd out on. Really enjoy it. And if you want to get in touch with me, feel free to email me, or we could chat during the breaks. So which I believe we'll be going to really quickly here. So appreciate it. Thank you so much.